14.
Evil scientist brain in a jar and his robot companion.
Okay, point's been made. Moving on. Androids 19 and 20, the latter commonly being known as Dr. Gero, are intriguing villains. Design-wise, concept-wise, they really take the science fiction angle the series adopted in the last arc and ramped it up to 11.
The Red Ribbon Army had already introduced the concept of androids way back in the early days of the franchise. But here we see the concept fully fleshed out as the driving force of the story.
Dr. Gero being the mastermind behind the original Red Ribbon androids is a really cool concept, and as a revenge tale, it definitely should work on paper. Unfortunately, it falls short for a couple of reasons. A good portion we can chalk up to executive meddling, but we'll get to that.
Their first appearance in this series is one of the most violent, disturbing chain of events to take place in the series, and immediately establishes these two as both a threat to our heroes and to humanity. They make no qualms murdering innocent people around them.
As well as putting a hand straight through Yamcha's chest in a sequence that, frankly, is unsettling on every level. It's such a brilliant beginning to these two characters that, unfortunately, just fizzles out by the end.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that, and oddly enough, it comes down to their designs. You see, a Chinese doll and an old man dressed for a trip on the Titanic aren't exactly the first visuals that come to mind when you think about major Dragon Ball villains.
Which is exactly what Toriyama's previous editor, Kazuhiko Torishima, thought. In an interview in Shenlong Times No. 2, Toriyama quotes Torishima, "I thought that the enemies had finally come. But aren't these just a geezer and a fatso?" Toriyama had not planned for another set of villains, so he ended up scrapping them for androids 17 and 18.
This does little to affect their ranking, of course, but it does explain why they start so strong and then are so quickly set aside for their younger counterparts. But ultimately, there's a lot of enjoyment to be pulled from these creepy mechanical bastards.
Including giving Vegeta one of the most badass Super Saiyan transformations in the series, and the introduction of the Big Bang Attack. Thanks, Android 19. You proved robots can feel fear.
17.
Okay. Oh shit, okay. This idiot's got a terrifying design, and his shtick of being the legendary Super Saiyan works well in concept, but is poorly executed from start to finish. His motivation ranges from weak to laughable, and 2/3 of his films are utter garbage. He only made this list because of his impact on the audience of the franchise, and we all wish he'd been stabbed a couple more times as a baby as to save us from the suffering of having to sit through his film a collective 5 times to give you the abridged version! Speaking of which, we hope you enjoy it, we loved working on it, and we love you all so much. Next!
16.
You'll have to excuse us, as it's only going to be myself and Kaiser this time.
Yeah, for some reason, Taka's been tied up and gagged in the storage room. I hope he's alright.
Nappa isn't exactly the first character that people think of when they hear best Dragon Ball villains. At least not until we became a thing anyway, but backpatting aside, he's actually a very effective enemy in the Saiyan saga.
The death of major characters up until this point was something that the franchise had already become familiar with, but the utter onslaught Nappa lays down is nothing short of monstrous, and it all climaxes with the death of the only character who absolutely could not die, effectively taking away their get-out-of-death-free card and setting up for the entire next arc.
His design is intimidating, his actions are ferocious, but his personality is pretty run-of-the-mill meathead death machine. Sure, he's got some great expressions, but his standalone personality leaves him better suited to being a lackey than serving as a primary threat. That being said, he fills that job better than almost any other character in the franchise.
Not to mention, he's also part of one of the biggest memes to ever grace the— Hey, what?
Hey, kids, do you like violence?
Taka! Taka, get back in the room!
There is no Taka now. There is only Nappa.
15.
You know who was a fun villain? Pilaf. What if you took him, but then made him effective?
You'd have King Piccolo.
Or Frieza.
Okay, but what about Garlic Jr.?
What about Garlic Jr.?
The guy's the only villain in the franchise to actually get his wish for immortality. Well, outside of a certain series that recently was released, but we're not talking about that right now. Unlike King Piccolo, who wished for his youth back like an idiot, he goes straight for immortality.
What's more, he has a background that's firmly rooted in the lore of the franchise. Being the disgraced son of a banished would-be kami out for revenge is a really neat concept. While not a lot is done with it, it's definitely a backstory that helps pull together a great group of characters to fight, including Kami.
He's also such a great-looking character. A vicious little gremlin clad in robes. He really does look like Emperor Pilaf's evil twin brother, and it kind of works. His henchmen also sport some neat designs, though they mostly serve to give Goku and Piccolo some fantastic fight scenes. His transformed state, on the other hand, while not bad, doesn't really have much going for it.
Wait, does That mean transformation started with Garlic Jr.? Huh. Maybe Toriyama did borrow more from the anime than we thought. Either way, he's a pretty effective villain whose film left a heavy impact on the franchise as a whole. He also had a saga in the show, but...
We're not gonna talk about that. It's garbage, and we all know it's garbage. But Dead Zone is a delight for fans of both the original Dragon Ball and its follow-up Z. And Garlic Jr.'s design, along with this concept, certainly add to that.
Now, if only he hadn't gone full hubris and opened the Dead Zone, effectively the only thing that could beat him.
Never go full hubris.
14.
Imagine being a kid who grew up watching Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball. You've seen Son Goku grow from a young boy into a man, and now he's got a wife, a kid, a family. You'd think this is where the series would end, right?
Instead, Toriyama decides he's going to shake up the very foundation of the series a whole 4 years into the manga's serialization by introducing the main character's long-lost brother, Raditz.
Let's be frank, Raditz is not a great villain. He's there for a total of 5 episodes of the anime and a total of 10 manga chapters. After his appearance, he is soon forgotten and only ever referenced in the Saiyan saga as a measuring stick for Vegeta and Nappa.
His personality also doesn't have much that sets him apart, though his savagery as an interplanetary destroyer of races definitely sets him apart from the villains before him.
He's also got a ridiculously memorable design, with his long hair and intimidating figure. How long do you think it takes him to dry that hair, by the way? I'm guessing 3 hours? 2 on a hot day.
You're assuming Saiyans bathe. Oh man, imagine being stuck in one of those pods for an entire year. I reek of sweat after a good night's sleep. Either way, he looks awesome, and his battle with Goku and Piccolo is also particularly memorable.
They pull out all the stops to beat him, and it takes the sacrifice of Goku, the main character, to finally take the Pineapple Head down. It's an amazing scene too. The Makanko Sappo is certainly not wasted on Raditz.
Unfortunately, what is wasted is opportunity. They introduced the main character's brother as an antagonistic force, but he's eliminated almost as soon as he's introduced. 10 chapters out of the 519 is pretty sad, but that doesn't change what his appearance meant for the franchise and the impact he had on the fanbase regardless.
Oh brother, where art thou? All right, he's in hell. Let's never talk about this again.
13.
Kaiser, don't freak out.
Huh?
Dude, Kaiser, just calm down!
I'm okay, guys, I'm cool.
Kaiser, please.
Stop yelling at us!
Guys, it's fine. Baby's kinda cool.
Excuse you?
Look, I hate GT as much as the next guy, as long as the next guy has a hatred that spans multiverses. But like you said, it happened. Trying to ignore what it meant to the franchise would be doing a disservice to it as a whole. I'm not just gonna dismiss it whole hog, and I'm going to recognize that Baby was a really neat concept.
His backstory is rather convoluted, but to sum it up, Baby is the creation of the Tuffles, a race invented for the anime as a warring collective against the Saiyans. While the Saiyans were depicted as brutish, bloodthirsty warriors, the Tuffles demonstrated advanced technology that overpowered the might of the Saiyans. They were captured on planet Tuffle, a reformed planet Plant, which then became planet Vegeta after the full moon rose, and it just gets really confusing.
You can boil Baby's motivation down to, you guys took my planet, I want it back. So this planet-hopping parasite takes a few bodies, claims Vegeta's, and by the time Goku and Co return, the entire planet is possessed by this conniving little devil. When it comes to feats of villainy, it's hard to top actually taking over the planet.
I know I'm not alone in my problems with Baby, though. He does possess Vegeta, effectively removing him from the entire arc, which is a huge disservice to the character. Same thing happens to Oob. While the inception of Majub is touching, he amounts to nothing. His backstory is incredibly confusing, and his design is pretty bad.
But a single motivation does provide a new stage for noteworthy Saiyan imagery. Planet Vegeta comes back in control of a Vegeta. The Earth serves as a surrogate for the Moon in Goku's Super Saiyan 4 transformation, and Baby revives the Great Ape form with a golden tinge this time. It's a fun highlight of what defines the Saiyans as we saw them in the past.
He definitely has problems, but as far as villains go, he actually executed some pretty nasty stuff. His arc is maybe the best that GT ever had, and while still mediocre to bad at parts, Baby's origins and motivations propelled the transformation to Super Saiyan 4. Does Goku dye his body hair? Like, where did his pants come from? Wasn't he a kid?
His arc has a lot of great moments that unfortunately just don't salvage it. As a character, he's petulant and sniveling rather than insidious. But as a villain, Baby certainly is memorable. Maybe Final Bat had something to do with that.
Oh look, something worse than GT itself!